Welcome to Talking in Stations, a podcast about EVE Online. I am Matterall here. We have been very busy today, and we're going to be busier again today, just now, as we go through this next group of topics. We'll talk about what's going on in Delve. We'll see if it's actually fallen. We're going to talk about fleet formations, the Grand Prix, anger games, and even hit secede fights in low sec. Talk about those as well. So stay tuned for Talking in Stations, the weekend report. First, I want to actually go back and review what we did at TIS this week, because it was a busy week. On the 8th, Monday, we did Goonswarm name swiped, and the ZXB destroyed. That's the Keepstar that was destroyed there. The next day on Tuesday, we did patch notes, and we hosted Evolution Corp, Hatery, and Skebet. And on Wednesday, we talked about trade hubs and how the Silk Road still exists. Abby Rova, who's with us today, we'll meet him in just a minute, told us that some evidence showed that the Silk Road was a real thing. And then on the 11th, Thursday, we talked about Delve. Delve, it has fallen. The last days to exit. We'll talk about what we meant there and how that is true. And then on the 12th, Friday, we talked to Ashtarothi about the Grand Prix, and he showed us around. We saw some of the statues. It was really good. So those are the episodes you can check for Newsday on Talking in Stations, and you can find those on YouTube/Talking in Stations. Also, we had a very special program on Saturday. The Anoikis Connection presents Jove Talks. Jove Talks, that is. And that was presented by Ronin 1, which is a group in Wormhole Space. And that was a full 2.5 to 3 hours of really dense presentations from wormhole groups all around. So check that out if you're into wormholes. And then also we have live coverage for the Keepstar kill in ZXB and another Keepstar kill in M2. That's that famous system. And we also had the Euro shows that we do now twice a week. One on Tuesday, one on Friday. The one on Tuesday was Eve Patch, Frogware, and more. And the Euro show on Thursday was CCP News Update, the sword ceremony from CCP, unique selling points of EVE Online, and of course, NFT non-fungible T. What is T? Tokens. Thank you. I was going to say transactions. All right. So as you can see, hours and hours, like more than 12 hours of talking in stations this week. We are busier than ever.
941 minutes in total and an average of 78 minutes per show.
Yeah. Whew. That introduction was another few minutes. One more thing. We are also, in addition to all that, we are also continually sending out our newspaper in-game. If you want that, go to your in-game client, your mail window, and select the, Wild Mail. Bottom left, you'll see a button called Add Mailing List, and use that and type in TIS News, and then you will get a newspaper every day in your mailbox in the game. So check that out. And finally, if you appreciate all this stuff and you want to help out and be a part of the process, we are recruiting. Talk to me, Matterall, on Discord, or find me in game under Matterall. And if you don't have time to do that, consider being a Patreon, and that's patreon.com/Matterall, or subscribe here with your Twitch subscription thingies. And there. Whew. Okay, let's introduce the gang. Elise Randolph from Pandemic Legion. How you doing, Elise?
Pretty good. Happy to be here. Man, you did like 16 hours of shows this week. That's nuts.
It was nuts, yeah. Arcia is with us. How you doing, Arcia?
Doing well. Yourself?
She's from Electus Matari. Suetonia is here from Volta.
Yeah, I'm good. Mado, you make me feel like Delve because I've fallen for you.
And Caleb's here, unaffiliated, I guess.
I'm running my own little trade alliance still. Invisible Exchequer, so that's still where I live. on my main.
Got it. And joining us as guests, but also part of Talking in Stations, one of our new members, Abby Rova. How you doing, Abby?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Abby, what group are you with? I forgot.
I'm unaffiliated as well.
Okay, perfect. But you've done a number of things. Tell us actually a little bit about yourself, because we need to get to know you.
Yeah, I've been playing, I don't know, about 6, 7, 8 years now. I've done a number of things. I've been in high sec, low sec, wormholes, null sec. I just like to do a little bit of everything. I do a lot of NPSI fleets. Like to just do things in the community to kind of see what pops up and run it. I fly with a number of friends who do other things, but I just like to be unaffiliated and have no ties.
Great. All right, let's dig in. First topic today, we're going to look at Delve. This is the war report. Keepstars. Since October 9th, 9 Keepstars have been downed, and 6 more, I think, in Fountain, if that number is correct. Those 9 were basically in period basis Quarius and in Delve. So that's what's happened so far, about 15 Keepstars. This week, 4 Keepstars were downed, and 4 new Keepstars are now jammed at this very moment, including F2O, which is a Keepstar in Quarius, I believe, that is one of the gateways out of Delve. So we'll come back to that later and talk about why that was important. Also, by the end of the by the end of the week, 10 more Keepstar systems will be jammed. That doesn't mean a Keepstar will actually be destroyed. It just means the systems will be jammed and they will be reinforced into destruction over a period of a few days. And then by mid-April, so 1 month from now, 23 Keepstars systems will be jammed. So that leaves 8 systems not jammed, including 1DQ and including one that was just saved, PS TAC 9, which we'll talk about. But I think we have to go to Elise first and talk about what's going on in Delve.
So quite a lot's been going on in Delve, and it's been going down pretty quickly. After M2, PAPI took a little while to recover. It was slow, but they did it, and I think they came back to greater than full strength, which is good. Obviously, they would have wished to not have the second M2 fight where they lost a ton of their Titans and Supers, and where they gave their enemy a lot of room to get back in, right? Because M2 essentially reset all of their progress in Delve. But you know what? You deal with a mistake. You can't cry over the lost Titans. So you come back. The Imperium strategy was to keep the super capitals trapped in M2. And PAPI said, okay, well, you got us there. They did a few breakout attempts. 2 were not so successful. 1 was very successful, but it cost quite a lot. That was to remove about half of the trapped Titans. But PAPI were like, okay, well, if you're going to do this, we're going to take something in return. And so what they did is they ended up taking back all of the space that they had lost. They regained control of all of those iHubs with the exception of M2, which they eventually did take as well. Then they went to the area that was formerly known as Helm's Deep, which, the Imperium didn't call it Helm's Deep after they moved to the manning the Hell Camp in M2. But all that space behind E3O, which is where a lot of industry was happening. There was a lot of safe ratting there during the war times. Some of the larger corporations had a lot of corp assets there as well. PAPI said, we're going to take all this from you. And so PAPI kind of went on a tear they were just winning these subcap engagements. Obviously, part of the reason they were winning, they had this huge numerical advantage. I wouldn't say it's that huge, but for most of the fights, they were outnumbering Imperium in terms of subcaps, 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 in some cases. But either way, they built on their success. They took all of the iHubs that they could take, and then they just did the waiting game. They started clearing out Sodios. They started clearing out some of the larger structures, some of the more important structures, while waiting for these doom clocks to tick over. When a system has been controlled for a certain number of days, I think it's somewhere around a month or so, that allows the person controlling that iHub to install a jammer. And that's what PAPI's, that's PAPI's MO when it comes to taking down these Keepstars. They say, hey, these Keepstars, they're very easy to defend with on the first 2 timers with supers and titans. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait so that they can't bring their supers and titans in here. Only we can decide when we want to bring the supers and titans in. And that's what they did. They also did a few interesting things. They are now getting infrastructure, which I think it's very easy to overlook and say that this is just a small thing. But the PAPI jump bridge network inside of Delve is now a very real thing. The T5Z jump bridge was going to QI1 before. They moved it over to 5C so it could hit that little constellation where M2 is. And that's where all of the Keepstars that died this weekend died, in that little constellation down there. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage, but it goes a long way, being able to use these jump bridges around what is someone else's region.
Yeah,
Sounds good. That was nice and detailed, at least. But can we rename it from Doom Clock to Demolition Schedule?
I think it has to be Doom Clock because that was the original Goon name for it, right?
It's a really good name, right? So the Imperium strategy, they have so many of these structures. They didn't show up to the ones in the M2 constellation because, like I said, the entire area was jammed. Right, they could not get in there even if they wanted to. They would first have to take some of these jammers back. And I think at that point they were like, you know what, it's too hard. These guys are too ingrained here. We can't get it out. They had spent so much time keeping them trapped in M2 that they had given up a little bit of an advantage in that constellation. But that constellation, who cares about it, right? It's the constellation next to Fountain. They don't live in Fountain anymore either. So who cares? It's just stuff in there. But moving forward, what I expect to see, and we'll touch on this a little bit better, I'll shine a light on this in the introduction, but the Imperium are going to have to start taking back some of these iHubs. And now PAPI they've kind of been a victim of their own success a little bit, where they've taken everything bar the 1DQ constellation. They've taken it all. That gives the Imperium a lot of targets to go after. I'm
sorry. I heard the funniest thing. Somebody says they got us surrounded, and the other guy says, "That's great. We can shoot in every direction."
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of that, right, I believe Goonswarm were actually able to the Imperium, I should say, were able to take back one of the iHubs in Helm's Deep last night.
PS Tech 9. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Keepstar there, right?
Yes.
So in theory, that's been reset for like another 37 days because it's probably going to get reinforced today, but then it comes out in 2 days, and then you have the 35-day hold again.
And at least keep talking about. Sorry.
I was going to say, like, it's not like they don't have Keepstars to shoot in the meantime. So like the 37-day delay on that is probably not going to really interfere with PAPI's calendar too much. But
yeah, consider that like a moon frac or something set for 37. That's what I think. Sustained release.
And you have to be fair, Elise, right? You keep talking about Fountain as if it's PAPI country. It's not. It's Pando country.
I mean, I think it's just Doom country right now. There's really nothing going on in there, but technically the Initiative do own it still. I think the people that live in NPC Fountain are probably really happy with all of this. They're like, we got our home back. We can do whatever we want here. There's no bullies to keep us in check or anything.
It's like the Nevada desert, right? It's now going to be formation testing ground.
Another one of the unsung heroes here, when we talk about taking these iHubs, I kind of made it sound like, PAPI just wins every subcap engagement, so the Imperium don't even try. That's actually not the case at all. There's been a lot of fights going over these iHubs, and one of the things that PAPI has had to do is they've had to keep the ADMs up in the systems that they're conquering, right? So it's not only take a system, hold it, control it, but it's also rat in it, build some stuff in there, just build a whole bunch of frigates in there to kind of prop the ADM up. So when the Imperium does come back, that the timers are a little bit longer, right? But you can see in the area where the Imperium has, started to make some headway in terms of iHubs and stuff like that. Those ADMs are quite low, but in the constellation that we were just talking about, the M2 constellation, that's not what it is, but it's the easiest one to talk about, or the most recognizable name in the constellation now. all those ADMs were 5 and above when the Keepstars went down, which meant that if the Imperium wanted to take anything there, to get any foothold, it would take a long time for those things to spool up. And the window is also much shorter, right? So it's not only that PAPI has been kind of conquering these, they've been conquering them and then like ratting in them, building up the ADMs. When PAPI went and took all of the areas behind Helm's Deep, they didn't, that's just too many systems too quick. So they weren't able to prop all the ADMs up as fast, right? So I think you're going to see a lot of back and forth in those areas. And that's the Imperium just delaying things, right? They know that what the PAPI strategy is. Philly came on last week and just said what the PAPI strategy was. So we don't have to guess what they're trying to do, right? And just to recap, it's take everything outside of the 1DQ pocket and then sneak into the 1DQ pocket by taking one of the systems, probably from the Queria side, and then anchoring a structure, then snowballing off of that. But yeah, so the Imperium are now just doing their delay strategy, which has worked in the past for them. If you want to be prisoner of the moment right now, it does look like the Imperium is kind of losing on all fronts here. But the last time that they did this delay tactic to whittle the PAPI numbers down a little bit, M2 happened, right? So that was very intentional on the Imperium side. They're trying to make it a boring grind, not to feed too much unless it's something that they need. Just to whittle the numbers of PAPI down, whittle that enthusiasm down, and put the pressure on PAPI leadership to keep their members motivated. The Imperium are betting that the Imperium can do that better than PAPI can, because the Imperium have a very good handle on their members. They've been together forever, it seems, so they kind of know everyone's pain points. They know what to deal with, and they absolutely know how to keep people motivated. So the Imperium's saying, hey, you guys outnumber us. We'll just let you guys screw up. And then when you screw up, we'll take advantage of it. So that's what the Imperium strategy, at least to me, seems like right now. And
I think we touched upon this in one of our talks, Elise. I think I coined it as this will feel like guerrilla warfare, right? They have the ability to come and pop up and harass at every corner. This is why when I said in my now clickbaity thing that Delve has fallen, but that only leads to an occupation. An occupation is not necessarily perfect. And if you do not occupy everything, which they don't, then you have an endless risk of being harassed by guerrilla warfare, terrorist-like attacks, right? And then, of course, there's the whole thing. You don't know what's in those Keepstars, right? So you don't know when there's actually going to be some sort of counter to the demolition. So even though I did say Delve is fallen, I stand by that, and I know that Matt all used it as clickbait.
It wasn't me.
But the point is that it was said in connection with the fact that something that was mentioned in chat, the Imperium numbers when it comes to participation have not fallen at all, or hardly at all, right? And you can even say that maybe on PAPI side that's also true. I don't have the exact stats, but I don't feel like the fatigue has actually shed off any players at all. I think there's almost the same participation now as there was 4 months ago. So in that sense, it looks as if it's going to be a long war, because removing all those structures and then the attack on 1DQ, that's a lot of time, right? I don't want to say that Mitani should almost do a John Rambo thing, but it's almost a John Rambo thing, I think.
So, like, anytime a smaller group fights a bigger group, guerrilla warfare is kind of what you have to resort to. And in this case, Imperium is the smaller group. Imperium has had a lot of conflicts where they've been the bigger group, so they've probably seen a lot of the strategies used against them. So I think they're going to be well prepared to fight from the entrenched guerrilla warfare position and make it as painful as possible. So I don't foresee things ending anytime soon.
Speaking of Goonswarm losing on all fronts, that's not entirely true when you look at the map, though, right? Because Catch is down to basically 3 iHubs that belong to Legacy now, 3 iHubs that Brave own, with 2 with GE TAC, and then 2 iHubs that are mostly irrelevant. And then Impasse, like half the iHubs in Impasse have now been destroyed. A lot of them are reinforced. If you take a look at MSC, basically every single iHub has been destroyed in Immensia, except for like one constellation that belongs to Vindictive. If you look at Tenerifis, like the 4 main constellations that you come into, they've all been destroyed of iHubs. And Esoteria, obviously, Bastion has held pretty much like 2 constellations with the Stain Russians. And I don't know if this is true or not, but someone said with that PS TAC iHub the other day that Goons were able to flip back. The reason why they actually were able to do that was because the Bastion started intosising DTAC PN, and Test had to like move some pilots over there to stop it. And that's what like kind of gave the Imperium kind of like the edge that allowed them to just like take control of that constellation.
Yeah, that's really well said. You know, we focus a lot on what's going on in Delve. Outside of Delve, the Imperium is running wild, right? And it's not just the initiative that is doing this, right? There are other groups in the Imperium doing that. Sudonia mentioned Bastion as well. And then unaffiliated groups are just like, hey, it's free real estate. They just go in and start torching shit.
So it's like the low sec principle. Whenever there's chaos in a region, everybody flocks to it. Like I'm one of those like garbage tier people that, oh look, Delve is on fire. There's a Thera hole there. Let's go. All right, let's go, everybody. Right? Like when chaos happens, everybody unaffiliated wants to jump in, and that kind of favors the smaller group because there's more of the bigger group to shoot at.
Yeah, we saw that happen when like Volta moved down the curse as well. They did like an opportunistic deployment, just like RC was mentioning. They're like, oh shit, there's cool stuff going on here. There's timers being created. We could just waltz in here, do some killing, and waltz out.
There's a site that shows you all the iHub timers coming up, and one of my favorite forms of content is just showing up. I'm not trying to take the system. I'm trying to shoot toasters, and I'm not the only one who does that, right?
Yeah, so it has been a pretty good. I think I said this before, but for a while the Imperium were doing a lot of talking, and the Initiative were cashing a lot of those checks because they were the ones in Curse, like making these inroads, torching the fields, right? And as of now, the people that lived in those regions are saying, well, we're moving out of theirs anyways. Brave is, they're saying, oh, well, we're redeployed to Quirius anyways. But that wasn't the initial plan. Like, let's be very clear here. It might have been in the initial plan at some point, but at that moment, it wasn't the initial plan. Yeah, Brave having to move to Quirius and let everything they have in Catch go. They dealt with it and they rebounded very well from that, right? I'm actually kind of surprised at how well Brave responded, but that's Brave responding strongly to a situation that they didn't want to be in. Let's be clear about that. Like, they knew at some point down the line, Catch, old home, Quirius, new home, but they didn't know that was going to happen because there was fires in Catch that they couldn't put out.
It's also the whole all the work that Bastion has been doing in pushing and working the timers. But more importantly, it looks like Initiative is going to play a bigger role now, right? Because now we have that occupation thing, and I think Archie just mentioned that the Initiative is a little bit of specialists when it comes to guerrilla warfare, right? Small groups are specialists in that kind of stuff. That means that they're most likely they were out there burning the backfields and raising the territories that were left undefended. It was a little bit of a snuff moment. It's like, look behind you. Hello, your home is on fire.
It's
Let's not overplay that, though. They really didn't do a lot. They helped other people do a lot. There was a lot of mixture of groups out there that were having to do it because of time zone tanking.
The point is that they were so focused on getting the manpower to go in and push on Delve, which was needed. So I don't see any other option. It was the right thing to do. I'm just saying now, after Initiative has been out there having a little bit of fun, I think they're going to be going closer to Delve and actually start playing.
I don't know how much fun they were having. Their numbers are tanking pretty hard. Like, I don't know if that's...
They were split.
They're down 50%, like 40%.
Between functions. That was primarily alt splits and people that were more important strategically to keep in Delve.
All right. Well, listen, they may play. Go ahead.
I'll say some of the numbers things can be very misleading. The initiative numbers on Z-Kill are down, but that's in part because there's no one left to kill and catch. Like Brave left the area. They're now living in Quirius. So there are fewer people to attack, so your numbers go down.
Yeah, but that's one shot per week, I think. That's, you could probably shoot a structure in a week.
Yeah, but what has Initiative been doing this week? They haven't really been like fighting Brave resistance too much. Like I think Brave have basically like defended like GE attack, and that's about it. So like it's been a lot of like them just toasting and like maybe fighting like 20 man gangs that show up to like stop their toasting. It hasn't been like 200 man Munin brawls like it was like the month before.
Yeah, I will be very curious to see where they go, right? Because if the initiative just says, okay, well, we're back to Dell full time, I think that's a waste of the initiative's talents, right? We already saw what they can do. Send them somewhere cool. Be like, yo, go over there, do more fire stuff there, guys. Like do a thing.
But are they coming? Army of Mangoes are being moved into Esoteria, right? To try and like stem the Army of Mangoes can probably hold Esoteria, I imagine, because they have the time zone advantage, I guess, versus the Bastion. Assuming that they like if they get stuff at high ADMs, the Bastion is in the wrong time zone to really affect AUTZ, so they could hold Esoteria. But if they move, then they're probably going to be trading Omist for that. And Omist is actually in a weird spot. I don't know if you can like bring up Dotlan, but Tenerife is burning right now. There's signs that the sort of guys who are like hunting down Legacy are moving into Faith of Bolis. If you check Faith of Bolis, there's been like a big blobs campaign the last week. There's been like dozens of Evictus Raiders and Capitals dying to blobs. So, and like on the map, you'll see like Omis is basically like squished right between Tenerife and Faith of Bolis. So Army of Mangoes, I don't think anyone can threaten them in their time zone. I think they definitely are a strong group. But like if they get cut off down there, that could be pretty bad for them because like not having a jump bridge network and stuff like that far away from Empire space can be really, really bad.
So for people asking, toasting is referring to the act of entosising, which is the way that you claim SOVs or iHubs in the current iteration of null security warfare. You use a little module called an entosis link that uses up strontium to... You kind of fire it at the node, and then like it reinforces, and then a timer comes back, and you have to run around the constellation and fire it at all these different nodes while you're fighting each other. And when one side pushes a bar the whole way up by claiming these nodes, the structure is destroyed, and then you can plop down a new one. And that's what they're called, toasters, because it's like entosising. Toaster also sometimes refers to Sancha because their brain is toaster, but in the context of null-sec discussion, it's entosising. But to go back onto what I wanted to say before the question was asked, some of the regions that are have changed so dramatically in the last couple months compared to what I've been used to when I've been roaming around. Like Paragon Sol seems like you were talking about Army of Mongo in Esoteria, but like I see like pretty much mostly them, and then like these guys who I'm used to being Resbroco low-sec campers called like the living breathing fuel blocks in Paragon Sol, and like I thought that was like test space, and I like go there and I don't see any tests. I see like mango, mushroom, badger, right? So it just seems like everybody's just moving around. It's just like musical chairs in nullsec right now.
Yeah, mango's removed, I believe, to try and like help keep the ADMs up. So that's why mangoes are mostly there, and that's probably why like they're moving into Esoteria. They might not be like abandoning Omist. Because again, like because of their time zone, it's probably unlikely that there's like enough people that can threaten them in the like Chinese, Korean kind of time zone.
Speaking of time zones, the Imperium announced that they're going to move their timers, or have moved their timers, to European time zone. At least, what's the significance of that?
So after M2, the PAPI forces in U.S. time zone really started to excel here. Right, they really started to make a name for themselves. You're talking about people like Pittsburgh, for example. He really kind of thrived in these scenarios, and the U.S. time zone became very strong for PAPI. The M2 breakout attempt was U.S. time zone, right, with the 400 dead dreads. That was all U.S. time zone. Ringing the bell happened every day in M2 in U.S. time zone, where PAPI had to, or where rather the Imperium had to respond. So at some point, the Imperium thought that, hey, we have this advantage in U.S. time zone, or at least it's a little bit closer in terms of numbers in U.S. time zone. So this is where we want to fight. That is no more. Now they say, hey, you know what? European time zone all the way. Let's switch things up a little bit. Let's get our Euros involved. They've got tremendous resources, right? You've got someone like Mr. V, one of the best FCs the game has seen in just full stop. You have him as a resource, and I'm sure he was like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of getting more involved here. I'm feeling more comfortable after my little hiatus from Eve. If you want me to do anything, I'll do some more stuff. That's cool. So you have that going for you. You also have a ton of other FCs in the European time zone. It's not just Mr. V, right? The Imperium have a huge cache of FCs to begin with, but in European time zone, they're trying to get them more involved. They're trying to say, hey, you know what? Maybe that numbers advantage that we thought we had in US time zone doesn't work anymore. Let's try it again in EU time zone. And the thing is, they can swap it back whenever they want, right? I think there's like a 2-week delay or something, but or 10 days or something. But they can just try it. They could just say, hey, let's see what happens. Worst case, we lose space. We're already losing space, so who cares?
Real quick, Suetonia, is that move permanent for Mangoes? Going back?
Vili is in the chat, and he says that their move is permanent. So I think we can assume Vili's complete. Vili knows because he's the leader of Legacy, right? So I don't know if that means they're going to be giving up Omist. I assume it's probably like a similar situation with, like Braving in Cruis, where they'll show up to protect key timers, but the ADMs are probably going to fall, and maybe some systems will die to opportunistic groups if they don't have enough people to keep the ADMs up, since they're going to be in Esoteria and Paragon Soul.
At least, what about the? European time zone for the Imperium is pretty good because you get initiative back. Do you think they should send them out to do something else somewhere else, or?
That's what I would do, right? I would just say, the initiative. You're essentially the best fighting force that we in the Imperium have. Just go do whatever you want. Do what will get you involved, right? I think the initiative pilots will be happy to come to Delve and help their allies, right? They're good allies, great allies even. But I think they would be better used somewhere else. Where is that somewhere else? I don't know. Send them north for like a month. Just see what happens. Like just send them somewhere else. For what they have, the initiative have shown that they are very good at doing jump clone deployments, right? So they can be in two places at once, it feels like.
I think more so than ever, it's easier to do that between jump clones, wormholes, filaments, and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, there you go. But if they do come, if the initiative do come to Delve for a little bit, obviously their EU time zone is a little bit stronger than their European time zone. Their EU time zone is a little bit stronger than their US time zone. You're talking like 1700 to 2200 is kind of peak initiative hours in terms of
both their FCs are EU though, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. So that's why that timer is kind of like peak. They've got more than two FCs, number one, but
sorry guys,
their best FCs and where their members hit that sweet spot where they can hit critical mass for all the fleet auctions that they like is between like 1700 and 2100. That little gap. It's kind of like Eve's golden hour for the longest time. Like if you wanted to fight, that's the best time where you could get one because the US time zone, people are like just getting off of work or out of school. The Europeans haven't quite gone to sleep yet, so they'll stay up a little bit later if they have to, and that's where the numbers really tend to swell.
So I guess just looking back on the show, Caleb. What were you thinking when you said Delve has fallen?
Well, in context, I was having a conversation with Rundle about the conditions of the late end of the war, so just around when it's about to finish. So I was basically trying to put the whole thing in the scenario, and I would say that when we look back in history, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months from now, I do think that we will be able to say that this was about when Delve fell, if something unpredicted isn't going to happen. So I said, okay, if we say that Delve has fallen, and then it's the horrible and almost impossible 1DQ fight, which is going to be bloody, and you're going to have to pay the butcher's bill. As I see it right now, as I said, I was seeing it, the numbers in participation from the Imperium has not dropped. So if we compare this to the massive punch that the Imperium got in the Casino War, you're not even close to that win condition. And this was, again, back to the fact that I don't see this as a winnable war. You can say, okay, cut them down in size, put baby in a corner, whatever you want to call it, but Imperium is not going to be gone, not even close. They're going to spin this in a way that makes it a win, and I've done so a little bit myself, because I'm afraid that they're going to come back on the other side when the butcher's bill is paid for both parties stronger, and it's going to be a completely new normal. And I had this discussion with Elise, and we are seeing somewhat not a reset of the server, but a completely new normal when you're talking about geopolitics. And I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. I have some ideas of what's going to happen, and I can guarantee everyone that it's not going to be boring.
Yeah, I will say so. If you're watching what's going on in World War B2, and if you're in PAPI right now, you took M2, you killed that Keepstar there, which essentially means any guy that got stuck there is now free, and you have like a little chalkboard where you can say, "Oh, I got 3 more Keepstars this week." So you're feeling pretty good. But if you put your ear to the ground, you're gonna start hearing like the boss music get more intense, right? So like, yeah, you slayed the bad guys, blah blah blah, but it's a feint, right? The boss music's just getting louder and more complicated. So the path becomes essentially much harder. I think PAPI are in a good position to keep going on this route. They've shown resilience before, and the people leading the charge are very much in tune to what's going on. But this isn't like the next stop is not 1DQ, right? Maybe in a few months from now, but you're not going to see that happen in the next couple weeks here, right? Like, and that's not going to be a failure on either side. What you're going to see is you're going to see fights over these iHubs all throughout Delve. You're going to see Keepstars getting dismantled one by one until there's nothing left. And then on the other side, you're going to see the Imperium. You're going to see them try and shake PAPI, see what falls out. Sometimes it's, they're going to turn their all-seeing eye over to Test. Say, oh, Test is next. You guys are dumb, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's going to turn on you. Then it's going to be like, oh, Brave, you're the worst. Everyone's leaving you to die. Try and leave, blah, blah. And they're going to go, oh, NC Dot, oh, you're doing all the work here. What are you doing? Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be the strategy, to see if they can break it apart.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting, the back and forth.
Abby, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just think that was a very good point you made about like the boss music getting louder. It's like you knock down the castle and it's like, oh, the princess is in another castle. Like we had great pace out of PAPI. M2 happened and it set everything back by 2 to 3 months, right? It was a big hit to morale and it completely slowed the war effort. So when we talk now about these Keepstars coming out and what's going to happen over the next month or two, that's highly dependent on these situations not escalating. Any one of these Keepstars could become another M2. We could get another 2 or 3 month delay, and that could hurt the morale of the PAPI side and bolster the Imperium.
And again, I keep mentioning this, even though people are, laughing at me or smoking or rolling their eyes.
No one's laughing at you.
Until I see a butcher's bill of about 1,500 Titans total, this war is not even remotely over. And you can call it what you will. Of course, you can say, okay, we pushed them out of Delve. We killed 1DQ. Yeah, but if they still have massive supers and Titans left, the war is not over.
Well, hold on a second.
Come back, and you have to pay that bill. This is the whole thing that I see is PAPI don't. Well, of course you can say circumstances are in their favor. There was no real good option to do a bloody fight. But until you start exchanging these Titans, until you start bleeding them out of the game, this war is not remotely over. And I keep saying it's about 1,500 until I start saying, okay, that was big, that was bloody. Now they're a little bit on the back heel.
If there's 1,500 dead supers and Titans, can we have a party? I don't really care whose they were.
Well, the point is that's the numbers.
With
right?
balloons and everything, RC.
1,000 went north. We know that 1,000 pretty much came with PAPI or more. We know that thing was a long time ago. A lot of Titans, little baby Titans, have been born since then. So my guesstimate is that at least 1,200 to 1,500 Titans are pretty much sitting in 1DQ.
Yeah, RC, champagne at 1,000. Champagne at 1,000, we'll celebrate.
1,000 or 1,500 is where I will want the number to go before I can say, okay, now everyone has burned so much of their big toys that it is that new normal and reset, and you can say that, okay, we've kind of won against Imperium. And I will almost say I agree.
If at 1,000 Titans, do we turn off scarcity and we get our minerals back again?
No more Titans.
I can't promise that. I suspect no is going to be the answer.
Well, listen, there's a couple things I wanted to cover here. One is, I see that the islanding of 1DQ, the islanding of it, right? Because after F2O goes, you can't get capitals out in a safe way that I can think of, in a safe way. And even if you were to asset safety them out, you're stuck in Ermelin, and I don't see you getting capitals out of there, Titans out of there, in a safe way with LSH around and other groups, and imagine how that's going to be camped in the area. So you can jump out of your NPC station. You can't get back into it. So wherever you got to go somewhere, you can do 100 at a time, but you're just going to attract, I think, post-war PAPI to eat those up. In other words, holding on to all the Titans in 1DQ is a last stand. You're either going to use them or you're going to put them in a situation to be lost. Am I missing something?
Oh, you can always asset safety them out, right? Like they have to kill 5 Keepstars to completely prevent people from docking them.
Yeah, but the logical end of this, if it works in PAPI's favor, at the very end, there are no structures left that hold Titans. All those Titans have either been moved or were forced to move to Ermelin.
But that's a horrible gopher game, right? You have 5 Keepstars that you have to take out before they don't have anywhere to be.
I mean, it's effectively 9 armor timers, Matterall, if you think about it, right?
I see what you're saying. So they jump around each.
Well, it's really difficult to move capitals in the system, right? Ideally, you'd want to sign it in because the Keepstar grids are so large and there's bubbles and stuff. But if PAPI are killing 1 Keepstar, right? The goons can just easily point defense bubbles off the Titans and whoop to another Keepstar. And so effectively, right, you kind of have a situation where there's instead of having 5 Keepstars, they have 9 armor timers. If you think about it like that.
Yeah, that's a lot. But they've done 9 armor timers in the past. I imagine they'll do 9 in the future.
Yeah, but not with all of the toys already in the system.
Exactly. And the important thing is, I think,
good point.
And Elise can correct me if I'm wrong. The representation proportionally on the PAPI side is not necessarily fair, right? Some will be potentially losing more of their toys than others, and the butcher bill is not evenly split, or I don't know what mechanic or metric you're using to consider what is a fair split, but we've seen a few fights with the big toys, and there's not, I would say, equal representation, and that is going to, okay, I hate using the term form cracks, but I'm not sure that if I was on PAPI sides, that I would be willing to proportionally pay more than anyone else. So how they do that math, I just would like to know, especially when that big bill comes in, because it is a big bill, and I can't see a win condition without it.
So M2 had a couple of big bills, and I think to PAPI's credit in terms of replacing things, unless I'm wrong here, no one really felt like they got slighted. And no one really felt like they, had to pay out too much for someone else's mistake. That sort of mentality just didn't come into play. You said it might, right? If you talk about like another 5 or 6 of those, and then things get a little bit scarce, right? Where you can't just go back to the coffers and say, "Oh, let me just pull out some more Titans here." Trying to decide who gets what. Maybe that causes some friction.
Especially because on the other side, politically, right? You guys want to still be, well, at least moderately strong and able to take the new normal, right? So you want some toys left because you have to be able to fight on the other side. The thing is not over. EVE is an endless war situation, right? And I don't think NC, PL, PH, Test want some sort of disproportional weakening. They prefer to keep things somewhat status quo, right? And then you have the whole fraternity as the I call them the new kid on the block, and I don't want to sound as if I'm trying to form cracks, because I kind of like wars, but on the other side, I would make sure that my group was fucking safe.
By the way, going back to 9 armor timers, which is a very good point by Suetonia, how many times you would have to defeat the entire Titan fleet of the Imperium. One other thing comes to mind, and that is the ability to reconstitute if you start having attrition of Titans that get lost, and maybe you lose 40 per. Does that balance out over time? Because it seems like Imperium doesn't have a place to build any more. They would have to buy them and ship them in some way.
So this is where the big uncertainty thing is, right? So we're talking about both of these sides know one another very well. Where they're both a little uncertain is how deep the pockets go. After M2, both sides replaced all their Titans within a couple days. After M2 Mark II, I think that took about another 5 days to a week to get everyone back in Titans. But
I thought Test took a little longer, though. But
I think there was an issue with replacing Ragnarok holes specifically, but it wasn't like a money or a Titan whole thing. I think like they had plenty of like, hey, if you lost a Rag, we can give you a Leviathan or an Erebus or whatever, no problem, but we just don't have Ragnaroks. That was the issue. I don't think it was like a Titan hole or money issue.
So where they're both kind of not sure about one another, and they're both kind of posturing like, oh yeah, my pockets are like the deepest pockets ever, dude.
When you say that, I almost believe it.
So like, do you think there's going to be another fight like M2 Part 2? Because I kind of don't. Because I think after what happened in M2 Part 2, the groups would be scared of jumping in force, because if the server breaks and whoever's jumping into the fight loses like all their ships again. Because like even last week when Billy was on, he was saying that they would form and stand down and do the classic blue ball situation until the numbers didn't crash the server. So like, I don't think it's going to come down to who is willing to keep forming, and who's going to lose motivation first.
Yeah, I think the plan right is they like kill 5 Keepstars and they take a shot at 1DQ1. Okay, goons are still like defending that. We kill 5 more Keepstars, take another shot at 1DQ1, and like keep like just trying to strangle them until the numbers are just in PAPI's favor.
But like,
there is, regardless of the outcome, there is going to be another Titan fight, right? There's going to be another situation where both sides have all their toys on grid with each other, and they're going to start just blasting away. I don't know what the end result is going to be from that, and I don't know how many times they can do that. Both sides are saying, oh, we can do this more than you. But neither side actually knows, right? There's a lot of kind of crazy variables here that they think they might know, but maybe fraternity's been building this secret cache for us all along, blah blah blah, or maybe we've got like this extra 200 Titans sitting in this random Keepstar because we've been so rich for so long, right? There's a lot of unknowns in there, so that's going to be kind of how the end of days look. I don't even think we're really full on into the middle of days yet, so that's looking way downfield.
Right. So Tony,
Vinny was just saying in the chat that they're not going into 1DQ1 until everything is done. So like what I was just saying is wrong. Like Lily says, they're just going to kill everything in Delve. They're not going to like poke at 1DQ1 every now and then.
I'm sure someone in US time zones is going to stroll in and be like, yo, I'm bored. Let's shoot 1DQ and see what happens. But it's not going to be like a meaningful sort of strategy type thing where they're going to try and pull the rug out from the Imperium that way.
I actually,
yeah.
Sorry, were you going to cover that with the?
No, you go right ahead.
That happened this week. I'm not going to name names, but someone from the PAPI side decided to take a fun little roam to attack the Imperium, and it did not turn out well for him. There is kind of a strict no tomfoolery rule. You're not allowed to feed entertainment. You're not allowed to make it fun for them. The PAPI forces want to make it as painful as possible for the Imperium.
Does that also kind of make it as painful as possible for you? Like, because to me,
It could, yeah.
not being allowed to do stupid crap is boring.
I completely agree. That's why I like to fly unaffiliated. But yeah, I think that is, and again, as I was saying, if one of these situations turns bad and we get another 10-week delay, if I was in PAPI forces, I wouldn't be too happy with being stuck here for an extra 10 weeks, not allowed to have fun.
Well,
yeah, that's one issue that the PAPI might have, right? Because they have a lot of, like, obviously there's not really many places you can roam. Like, I think that you can go to Providence and shoot like the Wrecking Crew guys there, or you can like roam into like the Volta area, like Triumvirate space, like Declan, Fade, Fountain, that kind of area. There's not really many places you can go to actually like get like cool little fights with people. And
Come to the beautiful war zone.
I know some people aren't like blue outside of Delve, right? Like I know like Horde and Test aren't blue, for example. But you're definitely going to have like a diplomat like screaming at you if like more than 20 people are like showing up and like killing some radders like in someone else's space. So.
Absolutely. But it's also the thing that Elise was hinting at, right? These unknown things, and then of course human stupidity or for the lols thing. You don't know if suddenly 10 dudes decide to bail on the rules and just undock their stuff because they really don't want to be part of this siege anymore. And then someone mistakes that for an actual action on the other side. And then suddenly you get this piling on happening. Or someone is going to the 7th Keepstar fight and expecting nothing to happen. And then suddenly there's fucking 500 dreads in there. There's just so many things that can happen in the next 2 months. And this is why Vill's plan, even though it's boring, is actually the correct one. You don't want to play grenades and then also try to do the bloodbath.
But I think not playing grenades and trying to do the bloodbath at the same time is also going to grind on you as much as it grinds on them. So I err on the side of let people be dumb. So I mean, maybe that's not why I'm not in charge of a null block, but that's not the point.
The key here thing is the key here is, and this is what deserves a lot of credit. Both sides, leadership groups in both sides, have managed to keep their members not only engaged, but happily doing this, right? Like we talked about it at any part around here through the war. If you pluck a member from either side of the groups fighting and you say, are you winning? Both of them will say, yeah, we're winning. It's great. Life is good. So, you know, that's a real testament. That's something that we haven't seen in an EVE Online war ever before. Right, there's always been the sense that one guy has like this looming, like, oh shit, we're actually losing, and another guy's like, oh yeah, we're actually winning. That guy's losing, ha ha ha.
And Arcia, the solution is to just approach the game with somewhat the same attitude as Elise and the former leader of MC, Celine. Make sure that it's the other dudes doing more dumb than you, and then moonwalk out just in time. That's the trick.
Oh, I think it's just like going to be a battle of morale, like almost every war is, right? Like you got like goons are potentially going to get frustrated by being like trapped in like 7 systems in Delve and having to like make money in high sec, whereas on the opposite side you have like the PAPI forces who are stuck like grinding structures for the next 10 weeks and they're probably not going to get like too many real fights, and they also have like some of the legacy alliances probably getting frustrated with them like losing like their spiritual homes, like Victus and Warped Intentions, those kind of alliances that have been getting hit the hardest on the backfields.
Let's talk about Endgame a little bit. We had Billy on last week. He's one of the leaders of PAPI and talked about war plans and stuff. When asked the question, I think by Caleb, what are the win conditions? And it's kind of funny. Everybody's obsessed about titles. Last war, this war, it just needs to know the win conditions. He smartly, in my opinion, said, we're done when we say we're done. I think I know their win condition. And this is like something I've been thinking about the last week or so. And it is the deplatforming of Mittani. I think that's their win condition. They deplatformed Sort Dragon, if you think about it. And that is why this is such a strange war. It's not a matter of taking Sov. It's not a matter even of destroying Titans, although I think that is a real marker for them. If they can manage to destroy a lot of those Titans, they take away the influence, which gives the platform. But I think that is what this is about. Not Billy so much, but I'm thinking of Vince. I'm thinking about, NCPL. What do you guys think of that?
I feel like that's not a reasonable win condition because that's not something you can control. Mittani has a platform as long as Imperium and Goonswarm exist, and you can't force them to not exist, even if you take all the space. They exist as an alliance. They're gigantic. They're powerful. I think any kind of win condition has to be something that you can control. Like when I do campaigns, I always just set a goal, destroy a war structure, conquer a system, something like that. And that's if I do this, I won. And it's something I can control, something tangible. If that's not tangible, I don't think that's something controllable and tangible.
Well, it's worse than that, right? It's first of all, it's an unrealistic goal to even set, right? It's an unrealistic goal.
I disagree, but okay.
And it's unfair to set on account of all these people that are supposed to follow you with that goal. As we've discussed many times, there is very few things that can get people to actually leave the game, and unless there's circumstances outside which you are not in control of, it's never going to happen. It usually takes real living and adulting or complete burnout in EVE. And many of these people that's been here for more than 10 years, burnout is not really a risk as such, with the exception of if they join the CSM, right? So there's no way that I can see this being realistic. But the unfair part of this is that it feels to me like Test knows that they are potentially going to get a big bullseye on their back when the war ends. I'm not necessarily sure by whom, but of course
when the war ends.
Yeah, and the Imperium has said that they're definitely going to go after them. So it's in their interest to keep this going as long as possible. So I think there's just so many unfair things about that whole criterion. And then, of course, there's the fact that trying to deliberately get other EVE players to quit the game, I find offensive, really.
It's not that, but at least you were shaking your head, or I don't know what you were doing there.
Oh, so I was laughing, right? Because I've had the pleasure of knowing the Mittani in space for a long time. And I think I said this before that people might have thought I was joking, but I absolutely wasn't. If you've only played EVE for between 5 and 7 years or less, you have not seen the Mittani's final form. You have not seen what he is capable of, right? You haven't even heard the second boss music for the Mittani, right? There is exactly one way. So first of all, I think the PAPI's endgame for this, I think their victory condition is mutual assured destruction, where we've both sides have just obliterated their stockpiles and have to start from scratch again, because I believe PAPI thinks that they can start from scratch better. But that's just my headcanon. That's nothing anything else says, right? But if you want to go down the rabbit hole of how do you get rid of the Mittani, right? How do you weaken his strength? There's one way to do it.
Okay.
Right?
Unless it comes from a leadership change from inside.
Wait, he was about to, hold on, Tony. He was about to say it.
So this is the one way you do it. You let him go out on top, right? You go after him with the rest of the game. You let him do whatever he wants. Let him spin as much as he wants. You go up against him. You put him against the wall. and then you fail, right? You just screw up catastrophically and you let him win, and then you have to quit as well. Like Vince goes away, Gobbins goes away, Billy goes away, ProGod goes away. Now Mittani is sitting over the wasteland and is like, I did it. I'm the best. I'm going down in history of the best to ever play a video game ever. And I just waltz out. Like, that's the only way I can imagine him ever willingly leaving.
The only way to win is to lose.
Yeah.
There's another one at least. This one is slightly controversial.
No, wait. So Tony needed to talk. I cut him off.
Oh no, I was just saying like that. I don't see the Mittani like leaving from any like outside pressure whatsoever. Like I think like if the only way it would happen would be like a goon schism, but like goon leadership is like so strong, and it's like being like, you know, it's structured in such a way that it's like so hard for like, you know, one like, you know, a random populist guy who's like, you know, let's say Merkel Chen wants to like take over goons from, right? It's like it's structured in such a way that it's like so hard for like one person to just like, you know, schism and just take it over. So
I suspect that there's a more clandestine and evil way of doing it. It's the Russian way of putting the Mittani in the same situation that took me away from the game for 2 years and almost 2.5 years. And that's the longest I've been away from the game. And it's making sure that his contraceptives doesn't work. So basically prick holes in his condoms.
Oh, Jesus. All right. I'm going back to what I was saying. It's not about getting rid of or Mittani leaving the game. Like you guys jumped to that conclusion. I wasn't saying that at all. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm not talking about goons leaving the game or the Imperium. It's more deplatforming, taking away the influence.
Well, you just leaked. No, Caleb. Now he's going to get a vasectomy and he's going to be invincible.
Oh my God! Shit, that was a mistake. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do that. But again,
you both are fired.
Yes.
All right.
Consider Sword Dragon, right?
You have to fly around the cluster and collect the 7 Dragon Balls and wish for his defeat. That's the only way. Unfortunately, somebody just collected them and wished for the Children of Light to happen. So you have to wait a bit.
But it is a fact, right? It is the adulting thing, and a lot of my friends that actually left Eve because they were adulting, either very active in their real life jobs, or the fact that they got kids and actually started a family. And funny enough, a lot of them also came back when the kids were suddenly what I call voice controlled, right? It's like you can't play this game if you're also trying to do parenting or if you're in a new relationship that's very fresh. You need those breaks. That's real life breaks. And that's why I think Suetonia kind of pointed this out. It has to be something outside the game.
I'm not talking about anyone leaving the game. I'm talking about deplatforming.
I think
one of the leaders.
If he still has an alliance that's big, he still has a platform.
I mean, the Mittani could have like could be like in high sec, and he would still get like 2,000, 3,000 Goonswarm members voting for him.
But yeah, as long as he still has an alliance, he has a platform. So if you're talking about deplatforming, you need to get people at least out of the alliance. And
exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
And that's not something you can control. Like
I think you can to a much greater degree than people think. I do because you have to rip at the fibers of what keeps them in their group. And I may be misunderstanding the game, but I think that people can get discouraged with their group because of the situation or because of the decisions that were made, or even, this is a big one, the confidence you have in their ability to make the right decisions at the right time. I think all that will be revisited. At least
if you're in the Imperium, you have absolute confidence in the Mittani, right? I think the Mittani is in an interesting spot because you can remove his alliance, you can remove him from space, put him in a corp with 150 people. That's it. One person leading 150 people somewhere in high sec. I think then the Mittani will still be the most important person in the game.
And this is what I said I'm pretty sure I said this in that episode, that in most groups, there's a core group. And unless that's destroyed somehow, they can survive anything. I'm pretty sure that's true with Elise too. I'm sure that you can cut it down to 20% of the size, but if the core of what what is considered the most important people, the organizers, the people that make everything work, if they are still there and they are still having fun, that thing is going to come back. And it's the same in the Imperium. And I said about 100 people are the core of the Imperium. And unless you can disrupt that, there is no way it's not coming back.
No, 100 people is deplatformed, right? Like if that's your reach. But we're talking right now, thousands, multiple thousands of people in one group. But I think anyway, that's what I think their idea of a win scenario is, because I don't see, people keep asking me like, well, what's going to happen to PAPI after the war? Are they going to fight each other and all this other stuff? And I'm thinking, they're not, in my opinion, from my exposure to them in different ways over time, nobody's told me this. It's just a theory that this isn't about winning a war. This is about beyond winning a war. This is about changing the dynamic of the future. That's why this is different than everything else. This is the end game war from an era, I think. And it's not just about the unmitigated growth of one group and the fear. It's literally, this is the time, this is the effort to do what they wanted to do back in 2009, and that is to to take away the influence of Goon Swarm. And that's what I think this is about. So there is no territory that'll be good enough. There's no aftermath that'll be, they're not positioning for the aftermath first and foremost. I think that's what they're after. I mean,
at that point, isn't there just like a total chance that it just backfires and makes it stronger because this war drags on and there's so many fights, people look at it and say, hey, these Goon Swarm guys are drowning in content. Let's go see what they're about, right?
I mean, that's pretty much what happened to all of the alliances that joined Goons, right? Like RTSQ and...
Yeah, is it just backfiring then? Is the whole thing backfiring?
What about the INN platform? I think the only people that read INN are INN, pretty much. Sorry, I was answering a question from... Okay.
I know. I think things very tricky, right? I have a feeling that you will... And this is my view, only my view, right? If you want to make the Mittani not the most influential person in the game, then you just have to, like what I said before, just let him win and leave on top, and then you're done, right? Everything else is a complete wasteland too, and you're no longer playing. But at least you did that.
But
I think
I like that theory, and it worked. It worked in Russian circles because a lot of Russians took off after BTEC-R. They were just like, I'm done. I was part of the biggest win in this game's history. I'm done with the game, and they lost a lot of good players.
But to people like the Mittani, to what I call real Eve players, this is like crack. It's like you can't just kick it. You're not just going to leave it. And so there's no way that he would do that. Even if he got a massive win, you would have to have conditions outside the game that meant that he didn't feel like playing the game anymore, or even more importantly, hanging with the people in the game.
I think people leave the game when their game style is nerfed, right? If CCP changes their game style, they take off. If the situation changes, you take off.
That's summer children. That's people that are not addicted. That's people that can actually kick this.
Your friends took off when gameplay changed.
Yeah, but they were not necessarily addicted.
Were they summer children?
No, but they were still not as addicted as the people that stayed the course, right? There's plenty of people that did stay the course, but of course, if your gameplay gets completely undermined, you leave. But that's just not true in people that play the game the way that the Mittani does, the way that, well, Elise does, the way that I do, the way that you do. There's hardly any condition where you can... I've not logged in for... Well, I did log in these past 2 weeks, but other than that, I had a break during my exams of 2 months, and so what? I don't need to log in to still be playing the game. I play the game on other fronts with all the people that I associate with.
Yeah, I think everybody has conditions for which they would stop playing, but some people's conditions might be more extreme. Like, no more unconsensual PvP, then like the entire game leaves almost, right? But some people's conditions are a little less extreme and some people's conditions are a little more extreme, and I think the heavily addicted people might only have extreme conditions in which they might leave.
And I think those people, like as Kayla was saying, it's both what is your level of leaving, and then what real life factor influences that. Like, as you said, children is a big one, right? Moving cities,
sure.
moving countries, getting a new job. People leave for a month when they get a new job, but the real Eve is not actually playing Eve. It's just the friends you've made along the way, right?
I don't really know. I honestly don't know what the real Eve is. I don't think there's a...
The real Eve is different for every individual Eve player.
Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it.
Elise, close us out on this huge topic of Null War this week. Any last thoughts? Anything you want.
Lots of actual fighting is going to happen once again. Don't look at 1DQ. That's not going to be touched for a few months. The next path forward is iHubs and stuff, which is kind of like the more fun parts of the fighting. So keep an eye on that. Lots of action. There's going to be a lot of back and forth and lots of explosions.
All right. Oh, one other one. I think at least this is for you. Interestingly, I watched the Meta show yesterday, and they talked about how Peanut Smash have left some advice with Matani. And it was turned into a cultural event. Like, what do you know about that?
I don't know exactly what he mentions. I do know that Israd, Peanut Smash is the leader of Israd, Elitist Ops, are originally, I guess many consider them to be the last true goons. I think people in Israd probably view that, and no one else does. But they were around when Goon Fleet first started as an alliance. Their CEO, Cartoon, famously disbanded their alliance, and that kind of led to the Matani being in charge. Before World War II kicked off, Israel, they were like, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna rejoin these guys," and they had a lot of fun. They did a lot of work, a ton of work. I think they gave the Imperium a lot of institutional knowledge on how to hunt supers. We saw a Revenant die. We saw some Titans die on T5Z undock. That's all Israd knowledge that was there. Maybe Israd weren't leading the fleet, but that's Israd knowledge. I believe what you're hinting at is PNF suggested that Imperium pilots can be better than F1 pushers.
Yes.
So it's kind of going to be the new cultural revolution. If the Imperium want to come out of this on the other side, looking better than how they walked into it, he thinks that the Imperium not only have the ability to, but should actually endorse becoming better individual pilots, being the guys that set up other things, going back to sort of the Goon Swarm roots, which are like, I think the very first propaganda poster for the Imperium is, the big block, there's like a B in the background, and the big block letters like, "Our enemies died because we killed their fleets, because you scouted a mistake that they made, right, because you want to fly a Rifter and have fun," right? Like that whole thing, the domino effect of, if you're out in space doing stuff, not being told what to do, who knows what could happen, right? This is how legacies are born.
Yeah, you're right, and that was showing your little contribution, your little decision was a part of a bigger and bigger and bigger thing, and eventually it led to the immovable, moving the immovable objects, because we all did it. We all contributed in some little way.
Yeah, so you should strive to be more than just. You should strive to leave your comfort zone, whatever that is. And I think that's incredible advice for every Eve player, right? Like, if the Imperium take this to heart, they're going to be incredibly spooky, regardless of what happens in Delve, right? But the same is true for everyone, right? If you think you've mastered your little circle, go out of that circle and try something new.
And it ties back to one of the things that was said before, when it was still the fat years. There was a lot of chitter chatter about the fact that there was way too much crabbing going on, way too much what you would almost say easy mode, or it's the whole problem with the feeder corps. It bloats organizations, right? When you have these groups, then they can just get so big that they're almost unmanageable. And there was a lot of talk about cutting the fat, and it's something that happens in most groups in EVE at some point. If they get into a crisis, they need to like ship shape, right? And this is why the F2 thing to me sounds a lot like, let's try and convert the fat before it's a problem.
Yeah, one last thing on this. The Peanut Smash also held the title for Goon Swarm. That was this week, and didn't pay the bill or something, and it got picked up by Evolution Corp. And then I think they did a mixture of, they got the Goon Swarm name, which is what they wanted, and then they put Goons instead of Oh God, which was their old ticker, and they did that, I think, because the original corporation for Goons was called Goons or something. There was some reason. Or what I heard was that Oh God was taken or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so the not paying the bill, which let the old original Goon Swarm Alliance lapse, I don't think it's a big deal, right? It was just, I think the value in it was the original alliance, where you could see Remedial as the founder. You had the alliance ticker. You had all the dates. You had all the join and leave history. I think that was the real value there. Just taking the name, who cares? At this point, the name is just a name. I imagine the people in Evil that have it, and I think they're going to put Molly in charge of it. I think they'll be very, very happy about that, for kind of just a feather in their cap. But everyone else is kind of just a little bit of blah.
We had a skebet from NC. and Haydari. Haydari's a great historian. We're going to get him on again to talk EVE history. From Evolution Corp, and they kept calling Goon Swarm the imposters. So that's their little playful angle on it, that they're the originals, and the current Goon GSF is the imposters. So that was their joke there. Okay, so that is the Cultural Revolution. The one thing I thought was telling is it seems to me it's ways of multiplying people. They're outnumbered. They're getting beat, not because they're any worse at the game, but they're outnumbered, and they need to make up for that in some way. So either divide and conquer your enemy by wedging issues between them, or augment your own numbers by hiring contractors, making friends, using diplomacy, or taking your one guy and trying to split him in two. Do this and do that. So it seems like, and the best thing you can do is actually convince people on the other side to join you, which they've done a lot of. They've kind of openly recruited brave guys to come over to their side of this conflict, because you take one away from your enemy and you add one to yourself. So it's double the effectiveness. So everything that they do, to me, looks like they're trying to figure out how to even the field for them to be able to compete. Otherwise, they just are really just constantly being overrun by higher numbers. They're being outblobbed, basically.
But that takes us down the rabbit hole of, again, discussing feeder corps and newbies and new player experience and all of that shenanigans, right? Because you saw on the meta show who they had invited. It's actually one of the guys that makes sure that the new blood is actually trained properly. So this is a long... I'm almost having a little bit of a flashback, because I'm pretty sure we covered something very similar just post the Casino War about feeder corps and how to train new bros.
All right. Next topic, real quick. Fleet formations have come into the game, and we did see a before and after, which was kind of interesting. Suetonia, I think you pointed it out. It was the 2 Keepstar fights, right?
Sorry, what about? I didn't say anything about fleet formations.
Okay, it was me, but I was trying to give you something. The fleet formations, we saw a before and after. Like the Keepstar attack of ZXB was before the change came in, and you saw that the Titans were warping in and bumping off each other. These are PAPI Titans destroying a Keepstar. And then the next fight was M2 TAC, and they came in with, I think NC. Was flying an arrow formation. And they came in and didn't bump off each other. Pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, I think Vili actually tried it on stream, right? With I think it was a plane formation with it. And even though it kind of still looked like it was just a big bowl of Titans, they didn't actually bump. I think warping in the plane formation. So it's definitely going to make life a lot easier, warping around capitals.
Yeah, it didn't look that different, did it? But we noticed there wasn't a lot of bumping. You guys notice anything else about fleet formations? You guys using them?
I haven't really used them a lot yet.
I watched Bjorn had a stream. Was this Friday? Yeah, I think Friday. And he did something really cool with his fleet. So he was taking about a Century Ishtar doctrine. So he warped he warped his fleet in the wall formation up to a jammer, had everyone launch their drones, and then he told them all to orbit around him. So there was just this wall of drones that you couldn't bomb away, you couldn't smart bomb off because they're all spread out. And that's how he took his fight. So you couldn't get under the tracking of the drones. If you got under the tracking of one, the other ones would get you. So it was a really effective tool. I think it's going to absolutely change the way the game works. I know people are going to laugh and be like, oh, Elise, this is dumb. This is a waste of time. We didn't ask for this. Where are the spaceships? But I think this is going to fundamentally change how EVE is played in a year from now, right?
I think that does actually have a lot of applications, because I'm thinking about using that specifically with. And do you remember when I killed that Citadel with shield arbitrators? Prophecies with sentry drones.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
right? There's a lot of cool things that you can unlock, and EVE players are incredibly inventive. EVE players are notorious for taking a tool and then using it for something else. And I have no doubt that the fleet formations are going to do just this. You give someone, I talked about this a few weeks ago, give someone like Asher this tool. Asher loves theory crafting. He loves coming up with inventive ideas. Give him this. This is going to be a toy for him. He's going to use it. Who knows when he's going to use it, but he's going to find a way to use it. And it's just a matter of time, right? So I think it's really going to start distancing certain FCs from other FCs. I also think it's going to remove a lot of pain points, right? So if you can warp in a certain formation where you don't get total hell bombed, that's always been like the up and coming FCs. So many of them have been snuffed out before they could actually really learn any potential, because the more experienced FCs can just like do donuts around them, right? Like, oh, they warped to the gate. What an idiot. What kind of fool would warp his entire fleet to this gate? Tick bomb, they're all gone, right? Then no one wants to join that guy's fleet anymore. Now this guy has tools where he doesn't get immediately devastated if he makes a mistake or he warps to the wrong spot. That's good for new growth. Also, extra buttons to click means someone's going to screw up. Someone is going to warp their fleet to the gate in the victory formation, and everyone, the FC is going to be right at the top. He's going to be like, hey, I'm jumping through. Everyone else is going to be like 50 to 20 kilometers away and just die horribly. Like, these mistakes are going to happen. It's going to be amazing. I want to see more of them.
Yeah, it's a mistake maker.
Exactly, sure. Right? EVE Online players are mistake machines, so you're adding like another cog in there to make more mistakes.
Yeah,
I think it's a great thing, right? I know a lot of, especially nullsec people, sour on it. They're like, or just dismiss it. Like the mood that I've gotten from people is just literally just personified. They're just like, whatever. It's a thing that exists that we have to deal with now. But I think they're going to really learn to love it and mess with it and break it in ways that poor Team Talos will not have anticipated, and they'll have to come back and fix it.
I got that sense they were bracing themselves for all the stuff that's going to break and get all whacked out.
On that note, I think CCP Rise is joining the less than 10, maybe not, I don't know. Or he'd already been on the podcast. I don't know. I know he did the Bjorn B. Or not Bjorn B. Jeez, I can't think today. I know he went on and talked to Pando on the Pando and Mirandalorian podcast. But I think he's going to another one. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll look for CCP Rise out there. We should try to surface other people's podcasts, like Less Than 10 are fantastic. There's always Declarations of War. That's consistently been good for many years. And I think Pando has a podcast too, which is really good. Those are all really nuts and bolts podcasts that are, amazing if you want to learn advanced EVE Online. Okay. We need to move on though to, what about this Grand Prix thing, Abby? Is this something you participated in?
Yeah, absolutely. I did it one time on 2 different characters, all 3 routes. Really enjoyed it. The first day it was kind of hectic. Anyone have a look around at the gates on that route?
Yeah, the Coleman Gate in particular was really crazy, right? Because I think at the end of the first route you do, the southern route, it's 36 jumps or something like that. If you want to go back to Luminaire or back to the waypoint, I think is like in Orcel, which is like in Galanti space, but you end the southern route, the last sort of the penultimate thing that it gets you to go and look at is in a Mars space. So the obvious shortcut is you just go through like Kuola and then Korn and then Secede and then Eklendi, and it saves you like 28 jumps or something. But dock workers who live around Corm, I believe, have been smart bombing and camping that shortcut quite heavily the first day.
I mean, they camp those gates even without the pre. They're making some of the best smart bomb camps of their life right now. They had one really big camp where they had a paladin get caught. They were smart bombing with a paladin, and you love to see it.
Yeah, it was great. So for those who don't know, the Grand Prix, it's an event. It started, 3 days ago on the 11th? It's running until the 23rd of March. You get 7 days of rewards out of 12 days. So, you can skip 5 if you don't log in. And it's the first one to feature that new expert system, right? The Interceptor expert system.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. And one thing as well that I'd like to point out that's really cool about the expert system, even if you didn't have any desire to fly interceptors, is it actually gives you every single frigate at level 5. So like if you wanted to like try out a ship that you can't fly, but you kind of have the ability to fly, like let's say maybe maybe you can fly a Hound, right? But you've never flown the Purifier or the Manticore. You can give those ships a try while you have that expert system.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I've done exactly that actually.
Yeah, Ash brings up a point. The expert system doesn't expire until the 30th, so you can actually hold on to these, I think, and use them a little bit later, not just for this event.
That's correct. Yeah, I think if they expire out of your redeem queue, I think, right?
Yeah, they expire in 4 days.
Yeah, so you have to like pop.
Is it like a rented movie where you have like 30 days to watch it, but you only have a day once you start watching it?
No, it's like, so right now, if you redeemed it on the first day, so 3 days ago, I think you only have like 4 days to. Once it's in your queue, it only lasts for a week in your redeem queue, and once you redeem it and inject those skills, it lasts until.
I think it's 4 days, right?
4 days, yeah.
Okay.
So you have a week. Yeah, you have a week to start taking it, and then once you take it, it lasts for 4 days. But it depends on when you log in. So if you log in on the very last day of the login rewards, if you haven't logged in yet and you log in on the last day, then I think you'd start that week and then 4-day timer, which would extend out to the very end of the month.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't log in, you miss out on and collect the other rewards. You miss out on like the really cool skins, which is I guess probably the main reward for this, right? Is the Luminaire skins.
Indeed, yeah. But also the new boosters, right? So we have the velocity booster and the warp speed booster. 2 different cerebral accelerators.
Yeah, the cool thing too is they actually go in slot 10, so they don't actually interfere with any other drugs. So you can potentially take the speed booster alongside Quaith as well as Overclocker if you want to go super duper fast.
You go in that interceptor arena with it, with all of them stacked.
Yeah, and you can fly out the arena, which I definitely haven't done.
Yeah, I think they're great. Not just for this event, but if you hold on to them, they last till the end of the month, so you can use them for your PvP and surprise people. It's a 10% velocity bonus and then a 10% warp speed bonus.
Yeah, they actually last quite a while too. It lasts 4 hours by default. If you have biology level 5, then they actually last 8 hours. So.
And I heard they survive potting.
No, they do not.
They don't? Somebody lied to me.
I
haven't used it yet.
Probably not the first time.
I took it for the arena, and I actually went 13-0 with a claw for a while. But as soon as I got potted, it disappeared, and it definitely goes away once you get potted.
The expert systems don't go away when you get potted, though.
No, the expert system is fine. Like, I know it's a bit confusing because they have the same icon. Like the icon in the inventory is the same as an accelerator is, but they do go away when you get potted.
So one thing I like about this this new event, there's 3 different routes in the universe, right? So you have a southern route, an eastern route, and then a northern route. And if you go through the little event window and you go through all the jumps, it'll eventually take you on all 3 of these routes. We get to see some old monuments that have been in the game a while. We get to see some new monuments that have recently been introduced. But if you do it once, you then unlock the extra lap function, and you do it again, and the second time it's timed. And there is a leaderboard for each of the 3 routes, and then you get points, say 1 to 10 or whatever, for being on that leaderboard. And then the person who has the most points cumulatively out of all 3 leaderboards gets in for the like final goal leaderboard, and there's some prizes for that one. And the first place gets 12 months Omega along with a skin. Do you know?
And they
about
also
that?
go on to be a member of their own monument, right? Like, isn't that right? If you, or did they say that if you win, or if you get in the top X number on the timers, you get added to a new monument?
Yeah, there's a at the finish line, I believe there will be a monument to, like, I think the 10 fastest people for each route.
That is so cool.
And the way you're gonna do that, right, is you're gonna need to be like really sneaky about it. So you can use like jump clones to like cheat, and you can use like death clone as well. You can also like maybe try and like probe wormholes, so you can like go between like one waypoint really quickly. The only caveat, right, is you don't actually get to choose the route you do the extra lap on. It's randomly assigned to you whenever you finish one. So you can't like completely prep beforehand. You kind of have to like know which lap you're doing first, and then you have to try and do the prep with like death clones, jump clones, wormholes.
Black Ops. Like if you took an Astero or something, you could bridge yourself.
Is that true?
Yeah. Well, you'd have to. You can only bridge to low sec, right? But you could have like a Sino in low sec. Like all of the routes have at least some low sec in them.
And
So
nullsec. The last route has nullsec as well.
Yeah, and like the last route in particular is quite dangerous. I actually saw this is quite funny. Maybe Arcia knows these guys, but there's guys called iRed. They're like Kardari role players.
Yeah, iRed and Lumen were camping Syndicate. Got like 300 kills in like 2 nights.
Yeah, they were camping the nullsec that connects like Placid to Solitude, and they were saying they're doing it because they hate the Grand Prix because they're Galanti, sorry,
So like
Kardari role players.
So iRed, the Ishak Rata Enforcement Directive, have been in Syndicate for like forever, because like 10 years ago, a Caldari NPC controlled by somebody who doesn't work at CCP anymore told them to go to Syndicate. And they've never told them to come back, so they're still there.
That's like that guy on an island in the Pacific still fighting World War II.
The Japanese soldier 40 years later and they had to get his ex-commander, yeah.
No, iRed's great. I like iRed.
CCP has to hire... They have to hire the old dev back to come and
yeah, like Ishikone NPC told them to go to Syndicate like 10 years ago, and they never told them to come back.
I love EVE players and their humor.
Sorry, can I also just mention in this total final score leaderboard with the mad prizes, right? So first place gets 12 months Omega and the police, those cool police skins. Second to 4th place gets 6 months Omega and a skin. 5 to 7 gets 3 months Omega, and 8 to 10 gets 1 month Omega. So there's like really cool prizes, but there will be a bonus community prize for doing it wrong. So somebody has to go out there and do this route in Rorqual or an Orca or something, record it, put the video up on the forums or on YouTube, and the community will be voting on a doing it wrong score, and that person will get a bonus prize as well. I really like that. I think I'd love to see someone do it in something silly.
mean,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Freighter is the obvious one, right? Obelisk. And you can use a jump freighter, right? You can, you can jump the low sec. I'm sure nothing bad will happen if you jump your like Ancha to a public beacon.
I feel like if you're using a jump freighter, you're going to like die in high sec, right?
Yeah, of all places.
You're gonna get like ganked.
Wow.
An Alliance tournament ship, maybe.
Break out my silver magnate.
Oh, all right.
I
But is
cannot
there-
bring one of those out, actually.
Do you have one of those?
Luminary is a 1.0 system, so you're completely safe, you know?
No, Elise doesn't have one of those because that's how I got mine by beating him.
Oh,
There's the setup and the delivery.
shots fired.
All right.
But you could make a joke about Blue Melon as well if you really wanted to like rub it in.
Hurt his feelings? No, we like Elise. We don't want to hurt his feelings.
Elise has way more tournament ships than me, so I gotta.
But he doesn't have that one. He doesn't have the
Right.
one you have, and that's the most important one.
Elise, this guy Blue Melon was entrusted to hold AT ships. He ended up keeping them. Terrible deed. But I heard you got a lot of them back. Is that right? Or
Our entire AT ship cache is not gone. Thank goodness.
wow.
It's one of the things I'm very proud of. When I was leading PL, I decided to devote like an entire 6 months worth of our income into buying these ships before an Alliance tournament or just after an Alliance tournament. And everyone thought I was an idiot. And they all went up in value tremendously. It was great.
Good investment.
And then we lost a bunch of them to a guy. But I mean, if you remove that part of it, I am still a genius.
Were
I think
you the
you're a
genius that
genius,
trusted the guy?
Yes.
Well, to be fair, he actually he had like some really cool story about like how he wanted to join PL like 10 years ago, and PL scammed him and killed his tide or took his tide or something.
Yeah, he forgot the other part of that story where when he rejoined again and was good, we gave him his Titan back out of guilt. But
Yeah.
he forgets that part of the story because it's
Convenient amnesia because he just made off with a bunch of ships.
yeah.
Well,
but it is classic EVE Online.
I'm sure he only like took it at the end, and then he was like, "Oh man, I need to come up with an origin story to
Yeah.
Yep.
At least the next time you tell that story, you should just end it 2 sentences sooner and
Yeah,
part
there
where you
you
lost
go.
them. And that's
Okay,
it. Story over.
Yeah. Is there anything else on the on this Grand Prix?
I love it. I think everyone should be doing it. Whether you're whether you're a newbie who wants to go see a bit of the universe. I think it's a lot like that SOE epic arc that sends you around the universe the first time, and you get to like, maybe I live in Minmatar and I've never gone to Galente or Mar, even low sec, null sec. You know, people just do it. It doesn't matter. If you're an alpha clone, you get a free interceptor. If you're Omega, it's cheap. Just go die, because there will be spark bombs. Make sure you bounce off a ping. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a top 10 time and a load of free stuff.
I think
Yeah,
that
just- Go ahead.
the EVE universe is really, really pretty. I used to run public, well, not public, but semi-public nebula tours, where I would take people around the entire cluster to see every nebula in the game, just because like each of the skyboxes are so pretty. And it's the same thing with these monuments and events that it's sending you to. And I think it's really good to have something built in that kind of gets people to go outside of like their few systems and go see everything that the game has to offer.
Yeah, and there's actually new monuments too. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, like, even if you're a veteran and you've seen quite a few of the sites already, there's actually a really cool one that they added, which is the Alliance Tournament Monument in Monarch. It's really, really cool. I actually spent, like, 5 minutes there taking screenshots.
Yeah, same. It's great. They have a lovely little central statue, and then they have all the teams that won each of the Alliance tournaments, even the Alliance Opens, all there. Really pretty. I think the Kriba monument is fantastic. He's holding up his hand, and he's got like his Veldnaut going around some rocks, right? It's really pretty. The Katia Say monument. But it's just great, and people should get out there. They should explore more, not be afraid to die in a cheap ship just to see more of the universe. Use the Gate Checker website, bounce off pings, and just have fun.
Yeah, and,
RCA.
sorry, another pro tip, right, is if you're at war, like you're having war problems, one thing you can do with that expert system, if your main, like maybe you're in PAPI or Goons and your main is like stuck in Delve in a war and you're probably war decked by like 5 different groups, you can just make on an alt character that you have, you can redeem that expert system and fly an interceptor on that character instead, and all of the rewards go into your redeeming queue. They don't get like tied onto that character, so you can just take an alt out if you're at war or something, complete the routes with your alt and then log back into your main and redeem them to your main.
Yeah, on the same
good
account.
idea.
On the same account, you can do that. Which is great. Yeah, it's a good tip.
It's like a pinch hitter. Yeah. RCA, they also have a Jamil Sarum statue. It turns out that was not publicized before.
Gems got turned into jam by the drifters.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you very much, Abby.
So I'm hoping that we see some more statues for like lore characters and stuff. Like they did a Jamel Sarum, but what about a Karen Mitcheller? Do you know who that is?
Yes, the Mimitar leader.
The X-rated. Yeah, killed in the Galente Federation, and that's when Kaleli happened, when the Minmatar jumped into the Federation and attacked them.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to do while we're here is also plug the writing competition, because you always plug it in the last 2 minutes, and a lot of people probably miss that.
I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you talk. I just want to remind you to plug it.
So the rating competition is an annual competition that has ISK prizes that is taking place on the Intergalactic Summit forums, on the official EVE forums, which is the in-character roleplay forum, because it is a contest where you write a story from your character's perspective in the EVE world. So you are thinking as your fictional character, writing a fictional or non-fictional, there's 4 categories, story, and submitting it for real ISK prizes. If you're into writing and the fiction of EVE, take a look at it. I'll get that link.
All right. Let's move on to Anger Games, Suetonia. Are you going to participate in that?
No, I'm not on a team in Anger Games, but I'm definitely going to watch it, so I'm really excited about it.
Wait, speaking of watching, I saw there was a bulletin board with your face on it, Suetonia. What's that?
TCP finally added that like top 5 Abyss thing, top 5 Abyss leaderboard cinematic that they said they were going to add. It looks really, really cool. It actually made me laugh a lot because Yumi has like the Japanese like facial thing on, and he like deliberately made his character look kind of silly. So it's really quite funny where you have like a lot of other characters that look like pretty cool and like, you know, scary, and then you just have his like big face come up.
Oh, I thought he looked pretty cool. He looked like a Kabuki theater or something. Like,
but, maybe it's just like an inside joke for me. It's really cool. It's really cool that CCP put that in the game.
Yeah, and is there something about being able to watch people compete in the arena that you compete in?
No. There was something. I think you guys talked about this. It was on Hobo Leaks, an item like a non-collidable structure called viewing stands. That's actually in the Federation Grand Prix. I don't think that's anything to do with the Proving Ground arena, unfortunately. But I mean, it would be really, really cool if CCP added like some way where you could spectate like people who are already like fighting in the arena, or maybe like some setting where like some guy can like tick like, hey, people can watch me, and then you can see like from their perspective or something. That would be super, super cool if CCP could do that, but it's probably like, you know, pretty far in the pipeline if it is.
But there's spectator mode entry in Hobo Leaks.
Yeah, it's
spectator
mode. I see.
Not sure what exactly it does, but it looks like they are working on exactly that.
Yeah, that would be super cool. But because I know there was some items called viewing stands that people were talking about, but they were actually just like structures that got put inside the Federation Grand Prix beacon.
Which I thought might have been like a trial run, just testing out the model maybe, if they do bring in this spectator mode for the PvP.
I mean, they did just have the Anger Games practice matches broadcasted and casted. So I do think adding like a spectator mode for like the arena thing would have interest, because people like to watch matches, and it's a really good like activity for when you're not maybe looking to do something as involved as flying yourself, right?
Then they just
put on the matches.
They just need to add the gambling to the network thing. Then we're back in business, because I really just on tournaments.
They have gambling for duels, right? You can like bet money on duels, right? Like, what if you could do that and then it like teleports you to an arena? I don't know, maybe that would be like too breaking the sandbox thing, but you know, like you say, like fight me 1v1, and then it like teleports you to an arena, and then everyone can like watch the fight.
Yeah, and if they just make sure that they register that stuff, so it's not something that people can game too much. Fixed games are, of course, a thing in real life as well, so I'm not entirely against it. But I really think that if we could get something Eve Bettis and being able to actually gamble in the game on teams fighting, that would be amazing, especially for big tournaments.
I would step up and pay Suetonia to throw a fight towards me to increase my reputation. Like, I would definitely pay for that.
No one would believe that one. Everyone would yell.
No one would believe it. All right.
Yeah, I would never collude, Maddle, don't worry.
Okay, I shouldn't laugh too hard at that. There's some stuff to look forward to. It would be neat to see HyperNet tied into that. I mean, that would be a really interesting, I think, Eve-esque kind of combination of features that would work well together. The Anger games, though...
It would just be cool in general for like streaming, maybe, right? Like if you just want to like, especially if you want to like practice casting for like Anger games or tournament, you could just like, okay, you know, you just cast a bunch of like random matches between people in the arena. It'd be really cool, actually.
Casting is hard. I've like shown up at like timers to smaller fights and tried to like cast them, and I'm just I listen to myself, and it's just like I'm falling over. Like, I don't know what to say in a lot of part. It's like really, it's a difficult skill to develop.
Elise, you've done that effectively.
I don't know about effectively, but I've done it a lot. It is really tricky.
Yeah. All right. Anger games. Speaking of tournaments, where are we with Anger games these days? You said practice. They're doing practice right now.
There was a practice matches streamed and casted yesterday, where you saw a bunch of the teams fly against each other. Each of the participants yesterday, we did 2 matches, and it was good. I was casted by the Anger Games crew, and they did a good job. I suggest you check out the VODs if you're interested in that. You can see some really good teams play, including my own.
And the prizes are out right there. It's what McLeod's showing on screen right there on stream right now. They're for the EdenCom ships. They are super cool. The EvenT Alliance Open winners got those skins as well. So they actually exist in the game right now if you want to pay over a small fortune for them. They look so dope.
So that's a tournament put together by the Imperium. The war's not stopping them from doing cool stuff like that. I think Sothersil is the guy in charge, and he's done it a few times now. So good tournament, well organized. All right, cool. So last little bit of news. We're turning to Sacid. Arcia, tell us what's going on in LoSec.
It wasn't just Sacid, but Snuffed has been basically burning the entire war zone. There was the biggest fight in Sacid on last week on some siege green structures, where it was like something like 110 to 120 billion as lost on our side to 90 billion lost on their side. So Snuff came out ahead. They got the objective, they got the ISK, but it was just like a bloodbath in Sacid. And then that was over siege green structures, like right around downtime. Like, they released a video about it. You can see a lot of ships dying, like a lot of shiny ships died on both sides in Sacid. So that was a slugfest, and Snuff put out a really well put together video on the fight in Sacid. There were a couple fights in Gukarla over Serenity Syndicate structures, and it was the same kind of like coalition of everybody in the war zone and like wrecking crew and all that. And Snuff just kind of came out ahead on both of the Bukarla engagements, which ended up being smaller engagements comparatively to the gigantic one in Secede. So there's a lot of the low-sec weather of Snuff is burning everything down.
All right.
Oh, and speaking of Snuff, we thought that this might happen, but Israd, the group that just left the Imperium that we were talking about earlier, they have rejoined Snuff. So they're back being friends together. That doesn't make, it's not too surprising. I think we kind of all thought that's where they might end up. Chottle Elf, the diplomat that spoke to Vili regarding the Ignoring Tranquility Trade Tower, he is formerly of Israd, so it kind of does make sense. There's lots of connections there. Panzer also formerly of Israd, so it's
what you're trying to say is if anyone's got stuff in low sec, good luck.
Yeah, you're basically screwed. The best fishers in the game are now out to get you, so have fun.
Happy birthday, Nick Bison, for your granddaughter there. Tell her we said happy birthday from Talking in Stations. Thanks for watching. Okay, last topic that we wanted to hit today, since we're doing a controversial show today, we're not afraid of controversy here at TIS. eVegas, what do you guys think?
I think people are just...
Or eVegan, as it's known.
Well, I think
I have that shirt.
All the Eve nerds...
You have the eVegan shirt?
I think all the Eve nerds have waited a very long time to actually be able to get back and do Eve meets, and I think the whole thing is like the first thing that most people hope that we will be able to do again, right? It's far enough out, so we're hoping that it's actually possible. I know that I'm hoping that there will be a London thing announced soonish. But again, it's really about when is everything opening up again. Is it too early, or will it be actual possible?
We should make it clear, because I don't think it's being... I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for kind of talking this one down, because I think, first of all, bad idea with a virus going around. I don't know where we're going to be in October. I don't think anybody does. But they're using a lot of footage of CCPers to promote this thing. And this is not a CCP event anymore. That's moved on to San Diego. And that's not even this year. That's next year. So there won't be CCPers there in uniform that we know of, right?
Well, we can't confirm that yet, right? We don't know if they will be allowed to go anywhere that early. I think that's why this is more of a...
But
we're doing this
saying like eVegas,
right? You're
showing videos of CCP's eVegas with CCP there having a great time. If that's how you're promoting this, that is false advertising. That's not what this is. This is a player meet like it used to be. Well,
it's still the same Vegas. It's just old format, right?
Yeah, you're showing last eVegas, says Bruce Grubal, and this is not last eVegas. That is a CCP sponsored event with CCP announcements and, an organized party, and you're using that to promote like a Goonswarm or Imperium fan thing that you want other people to come to. And I just feel
the
like
last time it was a fan event, like in 2016 or something, right? Like it's probably way too long ago. Like I don't think it's false advertising them showing like members of CCP at Vegas.
No,
it is just them showing like the previous Vegas.
Well, it's totally different though.
Sure, right? It probably is. It probably is going to be completely different, not just because of CCP not being there, but the entire.
I would like to see that guy in Finland, like, say, hey, Eve at home at my house, and then show all the footage of the sauna with Hilmar in it, and see how many people show up expecting that. But I think people understand that eVegas was an event put together by a group of players before it ever was endorsed by CCP. It's just that's what they're proposing. This isn't eVegas, the official
Well,
thing.
and CCP.
So I think it's unofficial. They should put
CCP
unofficial Vegas or something. I don't know.
Well, the point is that CCP decided to pull back from some of the event stuff, but they still said that they would then also dedicate themselves to the player events even more, regardless of where they happened in the world, if they could. So post-COVID, it could very well have ended up being very frequented by CCP, but not in the same way, and not more as participants than as arrangers, right?
See, CCP is taking the responsible footing here. Nothing this year. They already made that announcement, and players are co-opting their image to do something that looks very irresponsible, and that is in a pandemic situation, pandemic worldwide, you're inviting people to Las Vegas, a very populated area that has very lax rules on masking and everything else. It just seems very irresponsible. Well, I could be me though.
Oh, I mean, it depends on like what people want to do, right? Like looking at for example, in the UK, it's very likely that every single person here. I don't know about American statistics because I'm a European, but like in the UK, every adult, in theory, if the timeline continues to go the way it is, like every single adult in the UK will be vaccinated by September.
The first jab, right?
Yeah, only the first jab though, not fully vaccinated, but. Yeah, the first jab gives you 80% resistance or something.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I think I would personally not go anywhere this year, and especially even if like everybody has the ability to get vaccinated, there's going to be a lot of people, especially in the United States, unfortunately, who are going to forego that. And I'm like, I want to go somewhere. I would love to have an Eve meet this year and show up, but I don't think
me too.
Even in October, I'm not comfortable going this year, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a personal decision, but it's for me it's a no-brainer of like we're close, you know, we don't know what the future looks like. We know what the intentions are, we know what the medicines are that are getting out there, and we presume that things will be in a better place in October, but we really don't know. But I don't know. It's hard to make these decisions. You see things wanting to open up again. Some people saying it's too soon. This is, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have we'll discuss this maybe later in, quarantine and stations a year later, because about a year ago we were doing quarantine and stations about this new thing that was showing up called COVID, or it was called Rona at the time, coronavirus. So we'll go back and do one of those next week where we can discuss this with some doctors and nurses.
Can I just maybe end on a slightly happier note?
Oh yeah, this is the happy part where we get to say our shout outs and hellos and stuff.
So in the UK and kind of that region of Europe, it's Mother's Day Sunday today.
Oh.
All right. So shout out to all the UK and those of you who are celebrating Mother's Day today. You're probably not playing the game, and you should be hanging out with your mum. You should not be listening to us. You should be giving your mum flowers and love and affection. So just shout out to all the mums who put up with us.
Very nice, Abby. All right, guys, last thoughts, last comments.
Talking about the Federation Grand Prix, the first day it was rolled out because we didn't put beacons at all the sites. So Katya say when people were coming to Sassio looking for his monument, he was like in local, he's like, oh, well, it's actually over here. So for a while, he was the tour guide to his own monument. And some players even confused him for an NPC. They're like, oh, you must be an NPC. That's cool. I didn't know this game could do that. That's great. So shout out to Katya Say for being just hilarious.
For the record, the game can do that. NPCs have gold text, and they're usually played by CCP Delegate 0.
Yeah, there were some people, I think, in one of the systems, there was like a forward operating base, which is one of those NPC, Vatarus or whatever they are. And like some people were, I think it was in Passionai, which is one of the systems that it takes you to. And then people were saying, oh yeah, come, warp to this, because the actual thing is on the station. You can just warp to the station and see it. but it wasn't like there wasn't like an actual beacon for it. So some people were like saying, "Hey, you can just warp to me, and I'm totally at this thing." And then they just warp in and die to the rats.
Ouch. All right, Caleb. Any last thoughts from you? Do you want to shout out?
Yeah, I do have a small
Reva?
one. Well, indirectly maybe, because she did talk MER on the Meta Show this weekend, and there are half plans to cover some MER stuff or related third-party things on the Euro Show in the upcoming week. We haven't entirely fleshed out the 2 episodes upcoming, but at least tune in Tuesday, and I'm sure you're going to have a great time seeing McLeod and me with some secret guest talking nerdy Eve stuff, not player war stuff.
That's right. Get away from it all. I like it. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Also, shout out there to Katya Say for, I love that story, being tour guide to her own statue. That must have been a real trip for people to be able to meet her in the game. What a neat little coincidence. Okay, actually, one more announcement. I'm going to actually write an article. I'm putting myself back into writing. I'm going to put an article out on the spy thriller that we covered the other day about Maya, the spy from Test who went over to Guardians of the Galaxies. I think that story needs to be fleshed out pretty well. We did a whole 2-hour episode on it, but we want to get some of that good detail in there.
Are you going to submit something to the writing contest from Matterall's perspective?
I lose writing contests. I'm actually kind of a bad writer.
So winning's not the point. It's fun.
Is it going to be fan fiction?
Writing it's
Is there going to be Matterall fan fiction?
Well, the writing contest has to be from the character's perspective, so it would be Matterall fan fiction.
Okay. That might be easier to do. Why not? Let's give it a try. All right. Well, thanks very much, Arcia, Caleb, Elise, Sutonia, and Abby. Of course, McLeod behind the camera, working the studio. Thank you guys very much for putting the show together for everyone. Whew, this wraps up a big, long week. Thank you guys for hanging out and joining us for Talking in Stations. We will see you next time on Talking in Stations.